So here's the take of the day.
Okay.
You're not a pro until you can repeat it.
I like that.
And I know I just said it, but I think I agree with that.
I actually fully disagree with everything I just said already.
Everything I just said, no, like you and I have been talking about this a lot recently, when do you start to call yourself a full-time videographer? Because being unemployed and filming weddings here and there isn't in my opinion, being a full-time videographer.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though you could call yourself that.
Yeah.
Because technically that's your current full-time job.
Yeah. I say there's kind of like two camps, right?
Yeah.
We've seen both. We've seen the one camp where someone works a full-time job and they're just kind of getting into the videography space and they don't know at what point to call themselves a professional full-time videographer. Yeah. And then there's the other camp who, let's say they're doing it full-time. Let's say their starting booking price is like, I don't know, the $3,000-$4,000, and somewhere in their inquiry bookings, they get like a $10,000 wedding, just luck of the draw. Right. And then all of a sudden they consider themselves a $10,000 videographer when it's just not true, you know? So that's kind of the manifesto here is you're not a pro until you can repeat it and prove it time after time.
So if I can't call myself a 10K videographer until I repeat it, how many times do I have to repeat it to earn your stamp of approval for you are a $10,000?
That's actually a really good question. Let's just say 7. Huh?
No, it's a good point though. Yeah. Like, did you get lucky?
Right.
Or was it work with purpose?
Yeah.
Did you just happen to be in the right place at the right time? Or have a great connection that one time? Or are you continuously booking these types of weddings? Which I would say you can earn that stamp of approval. I'd say once you do it like repeatedly 3 or 4 times. Yeah, honestly, I think once you're doing it 3 or 4 times, right, as long as it's not just like a one-time fluke, because I think anyone can get one, anyone can get lucky. Yeah. And you could argue, well, I was only lucky because I was prepared for that. It's like, yes and no. Yeah, but like if you were truly prepared, you do it again. Yeah. Right. Lucky to me is a fluke, like a one-time, oh my gosh. You know, and planners talk about this. They get like a crazy big wedding and they never get that type of client again. They were just right place, right time. Yeah. And they're back to their usual market. And so it's kind of scary when you think about like, oh, like I book one $10,000 wedding, or let's just say more realistically, I book one $7,000 wedding, and I'm usually booking $3,000 to $4,000 weddings. All of a sudden, my prices are now $7K, and I can't get any inquiries. It's like, and I want to talk about why and how to build that system. Because you and I feel like the last few years we've learned, like, okay, we can't just do one and then expect it to come. Right. It's you got to build the system around that vibe. Right. So yeah, let's talk about it. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We just keep on saying let's talk about it.
So yeah, let's talk about it.
Keep on saying what we're going to talk about and never talk about it. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that.
Well, no, starting to talk about it here.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's a mistake first and foremost when we're just gonna say the demographic of the person we're talking to right now. Let's say they average $3,000-$4,000 in their booking. They book a $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 wedding, and they say, "Dang, that was awesome." Yeah. All of a sudden, my prices are now worth that, and then that's where people have this, this disillusion of, oh, I'm actually not booking anything now. What went wrong? And the thing that went wrong was you jumped from $3,000-$4,000. You doubled your prices pretty much without changing anything in your system. You didn't change anything about your brand.
Exactly.
You just got lucky and you assumed I'm actually worth that. When there's some slight tweaks you need to make.
Yeah. No, I think that's the bulk of my issue with that statement is you got lucky. And now you have like a video piece that's probably like, worth that much, but nothing else is. And so you can't just go from being like a $2,000 videographer to thinking, well, I booked a $7,000 wedding or $10,000 wedding, whatever it is. And now that should be coming my way. It's like, well, it'll come your way. Clients will come your way, repeated clients, which again should be the goal, right? You shouldn't be looking for like hoping like, oh, maybe I'll get lucky again. It's like, no, the goal should be that you have the system in place, the brand in place to attract that in the first place. And you and I this week were talking about how like, we're like, what really is the difference between networking and branding? Right. Like what really, like how do we define those things? And thanks to ChatGPT, who we're talking to, is like, well, I'm going to butcher this, but let me just read it.
Yeah, read the prompt.
Essentially, please. Branding is getting the eyeballs seen or getting eyeballs on you, and the networking is getting them on you again. like repeat.
Continuously.
Yeah, continuously. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, please do. And by the way, I just want to, while he's looking that up, preface, like, we're not just whipping this $7,000-$8,000 price tag out of our butts here. We threw a poll in our Facebook group, what was it, 2 weeks ago? And we asked people in our group, would you rather book a $10,000 wedding every here and there, so often, or would you rather consistently book $7,000 weddings?
Yeah.
And if you first think about that, you're like, oh, of course I want a $10,000 wedding. That's great. But when I think you said in your caption, be honest with yourself, would you rather really put in the work to be a $10,000 wedding videographer or have that consistent $7,000?
Every price is tiers.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Expectations.
And there's a difference in couples, right? When you're filming $7,000, it's more laid back, a lot of elopements. You don't have to worry so much about like dressing up to the nines every single time. 10,000 plus, you start to get into that realm. And the overwhelming majority of our audience, I think it was like 80-something% of people said, I would rather book $7,000 to $9,000 weddings, around $7,000 average. What was it?
73% of our audience.
73% of our audience said they would rather book $7,000 weddings consistently, 2-3 times a month than a $10,000 wedding once, every so often.
Actually, the poll was $10K per wedding.
$10K per wedding, or
like which one would you rather do? It wasn't even like a here and there. It was like, do you want to be doing $10K a wedding or do you want a $7K? And surprisingly, 73% said.
Well, what you said in the caption, you said, be honest, like you have to put in the work to consistently book that $10,000 per wedding.
Consistently book 10K weddings or consistently book 7K weddings.
Right. Like the 7K is just kind of like on autopilot. You're not really like even thinking about it. It's just they just keep coming in. Whereas with the $10,000, you have to make sure you're putting in the work.
It's way different. Yeah.
Networking, getting those. And people said, $7,000 weddings. I'd rather just have that.
But what helped us understand was that branding is how you get chosen and networking is how you get remembered. Like in the most simple of terms. Like when you really boil it down, like what are you putting in the effort for? And so it's like, okay, let's say I booked a $7,000 wedding and I'm usually in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. It's like, okay, well, how do you get remembered now? And it's like, well, now I want everything to look $7,000. I want my website, how I dress, how I sign my emails, how my packages look, how my colors, everything's consistent with a $7K price tag. But if a planner or a bride comes along and they want to book you and they have, a $7,000 budget and they're like, wow, that video is so beautiful. Like that was a gorgeous wedding. Definitely kind of what my vibe is. But then they go to your inquiry and it's, maybe you're wearing, khaki shorts and a polo.
The branded polo.
Yeah. And you're just like, or maybe like the packages seem like weird. Like, oh, I'm not really getting that much for $7K. Yeah. I should be getting more value out of hiring you, or maybe your email signature is weird, or, it's just like any of those things to me are the weak link in your armor here, or in your chain that break that illusion image, we'll say, of you being $7,000.
Well, I would say, in preparation for this episode, I was going along with that. I was thinking about what's probably the biggest impact client facing that makes them think you're a $7,000 videographer. And we can talk about email signatures, websites, all that stuff. But I think the number one thing, and let me know if you disagree with this, I think the number one thing that matters to be in that price range is your Instagram. Because let me go a little further. Where we're at right now,
I'm marinating that thought.
Where we're at right now, our Instagram has to be on point, but then the PDFs that we send to our planners have to be on point. Our website has to be on point. The client calls have to be on point, which I guess that could be another one. But all those things have to be on point for where we're at right now. But if you are in that $7,000 range, I feel like it's just the Instagram that has to be like, wow, this person does really, really good work. And there's a little more leeway, whether you have a website or not, what your client calls look like.
Definitely make that argument. To be honest. I think that's definitely a valid argument. And I'll say why is because I think at that price point, the $7,000 price range, that's usually where you're getting discovered the most is Instagram.
It's true.
I feel like those are the glory days. I love those days where the game was literally just posting to Instagram and DMing brides. I feel like now the game is politics and the game is relationships, which we love. The game is more about kind of the longevity of the relationship and the PDFs and how you dress. And all those things, again, all those things still matter at $7,000, like if you're charging $7,000. But I do think the biggest way you're discovered is social media. So I think it's a valid take. I think what is social media? It's your first impression, right? People see, it's basically a mini website.
Yeah.
Whether you have one or not, it's a first impression of what you can do for them. You know, you can hopefully posting variety, so people can kind of get a quick glimpse of like, hey, what's your vibe? It's also social proof. So if you have 1,000 followers, people think, oh my gosh, 1,000 people trust this person or validate this person. And it's a great place for them to kind of quickly get to know you, hopefully, whether you have like an about you story highlight, or even if your bio is just kind of like, you know, on brand. Like Jake Weiser Films bio used to be like crafting adventurous films or luxury or timeless films for adventurous couples. Was like when I was in the $7,000 price range. And that little tagline, I think, was just like a quick impression of like, who do you serve? And I was like, I want adventurous couples, but I want like a kind of a documentarian, you know? So see, I think I agree with that. And I think that's a very valid take.
And that's the thing too. You talked about followers. Like, I think who you're attracting in that price range are mainly brides, not so much planners.
Yeah.
And at this point, at this tier, I feel like Instagram followers actually do matter. Whereas, you know, wedding videographers who are booking, you know, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 gigs, a lot of them that I see have like 1,000 followers.
Yeah, it's crazy how like it's like this bell curve of you need followers, and then the higher your prices go, you start to not need followers
because you just have your private
so
clients.
Interesting, yeah.
Know? And at that point, it's the wedding planners. But when you're in that $7,000 range, it's mainly brides, and they see, oh, this person has 10,000 followers. Yeah, they're worth $7,000. It just kind of makes sense to them. Like you, Jake Weiser Films, you could just pull it out of your hat to someone and say they couldn't even see your work, and they see you have 70,000 followers, and they're like, oh yeah, for sure, that's a good deal.
Right. But it was a big deal when I hit 10,000 followers. Like that was like, I felt like I could charge more. And I was like, that was a big deal.
For sure.
It was also a different time. Instagram's different nowadays, but
yeah, but that shouldn't discourage anybody who doesn't have a big following, or they only have a couple hundred, because if you do get in with a planner, it doesn't really matter to them. They see, oh, you have, you know, 1,000 less than, 7,000 is easy.
I agree. I also I think the goal, social media wise, should be to get to 1,000. I think for whatever reason, that number, having 1,000 people who like your work, is just so validating.
It is. Yeah.
But it's easy to get to.
Do what you need to.
I mean, easy is relative, but I do think with consistency, it's pretty easy to get there.
Yeah. Just post a couple times.
If it's your priority, it'll happen soon.
For sure. For sure.
So yeah, I agree. I think you want to have your social media dialed. And if it's like, wow, if you get the opportunity, if you get lucky, and man, I usually charge $3,000 to $4,000, got the $7,000 gig. I don't want it to be a fluke. I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I don't want to get lucky and then go back to charging less. Yeah. So let's talk about how do you use the opportunity to your advantage and say, now I will use that, because now I wanted to claim I am a $7,000 videographer. I don't want to be a $3,000 videographer. Yeah. So how do you take a fluke and make it the norm? Yeah.
So about 5, maybe 6 years ago, actually, no, this was probably 7 years ago. I was in college, and I was like, you know, I'm just filming weddings on the side. It's paying for college sort of thing. And at that point, I was kind of in that $3,000, $4,000 range, and something I think it was $8,000 came my way. It was out in Georgia, and it was this beautiful black tie event. I forgot the name of the venue, and I was like, this is sick. This is awesome. Forgot the name of the venue, but it was
everything you need to know about the story.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't take it serious, but it was like this like ruin of a castle outside on the river. It was beautiful, black tie. And I thought it was the coolest thing. You know, we flew out there. I brought Samuel, our buddy, and looking back, I'm so embarrassed because we showed up in jeans, had Vans, and the photographer, I think, what was his name? Greg? Wasn't Greg Fink?
I was going to say,
no, it wasn't Greg Fink. It was Greg's Ross. I don't know. I'll find him. He shot the whole day on film. He was a fine art, like film, black and white. He was probably his mid 40s. He was dressed in a tux, and I didn't think anything of it. And we shot the
Wow,
wedding.
You look like you're dying in that tux.
Yeah, I remember the whole day shooting, and Samuel was like, "Dude, this is the one that's gonna like put you on the map." And I'm like, "Yeah, man,
That's
so
crazy.
good." And I don't know the name of the planner. I remember Greg, the photographer.
Go into your honey book and find that,
I think I need to.
or that Google Doc, whatever the hell.
Well, they're probably like, who is that videographer? But yeah, looking back, every like guest was so just dressed up well, and it was a beautiful wedding. Looking back, I wish I would have known then what I know now.
Yeah.
Where if I show up to a wedding that's completely out of the norm, it's in the budget that I want to be at consistently, I am showing up dressed very well.
Yeah.
And I'm networking like crazy with the planner.
Crazy how common sense that sounds now.
It does. Yeah. But yeah, that's the first thing I'm doing is finding out who got me this gig and how do I network with them.
Simple truths.
It's so
Like, it's
simple.
crazy when you say it out loud. You're like,
Yeah.
duh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just one of those like kind of those moments you have to learn the hard way sometimes.
And
Hopefully, or you have people like us telling you on a podcast.
Yeah. And
Don't make this
at this
mistake.
point, it was a bride who found me.
Yeah.
And so this is where those like same day reels come in handy, because if I would have just made a same day reel, her
Right.
bridesmaids are seeing it, all the people who are
planner,
getting married, they all see
photographer.
it. Who filmed that wedding? Oh, it was me.
Right.
Let's hire him. How much
Right.
did he charge? 8.
Right.
And then the next year I charged 10. It's like,
Right.
oh yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's the key, you guys. That's to not be a fluke, to not be a one-hit wonder. You got to capitalize on the opportunity like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get that $8,000 booking coming in, saying, "Okay, I do not want to go back to $4,000."
For sure.
And I remember when I told this story before, but I was charging $800, and a photographer referred me to a client and said, "I just only charge $1,500. I'm not sure if that's what you charge. I hope that's okay."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yes, it is." And then I was like, "Okay, well now I'm $1,500." And it's like, and I think the jump to 800 to 1,500 isn't as drastic, but I was like, "Okay, well now I'm gonna kill it." And so I made my films longer. I started using second shooters. Like I was like, "Okay, now I'm not going back. I want to make that more often."
Yeah.
And so you're right, $8,000 if you would have made, show up in a shirt and tie at the least. And then, I mean, I think back then, same day, that's weren't even a concept that we even discussed. But like, imagine what would have happened if you would have given the planner the next day, "Hey, thanks for letting me be here."
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think those little things, and you make a good website, have a great social media, they come and say, "Oh, who is this Nate guy?" Look at your website. "Oh, yeah, he looks great." Because they just want to see the quick previews. They don't want to watch the full films.
For sure.
And then all of a sudden you're getting referred like, "Oh, we paid $8K. Okay, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
$8K,
Yeah. I think,
I wonder what that planner is now.
yeah, I really
8
should
years
go
later,
back and
that's
find-
Marcy Bloom.
Wow, I dropped the ball. Wow, we really could have shortcut this whole journey with Runaway Vows, right?
No, that's crazy.
Also, I think another thing that's really important is just at that point, and I guess for everybody, just define who your audience is,
yeah.
right? Because I feel like with $7,000 range, there's a lot of different clientele. There's the really adventurous elopement people that are willing to do that. They're, I don't know, people in your home state. That's a really good thing to do. I'm trying to think about.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea. Guys, we're kind of working on something. And so our system, how we feel like, because I feel like you and I, Nate, we've taken a lot of steps forward, but a lot of steps back too.
Mm-hmm.
And those have been, I would say those are very intentional steps back, where it's always been like, okay, we took a step forward this way. That's actually not the direction we want to go. We want to go back, and then we're going to go this way. Actually, no, until we find that's the path we want to be on. And Nate and I, these last few weeks, we've been like trying to figure out how to because we get asked all the time, well, how do you do this? How do you do this? What are your systems? And so we're finally putting together something that we're very excited about. We're not going to say much about it yet, but it's in the works. It's cooking in the kitchen. And we kind of boil it down, and Emma's going to love this. It's nothing to do with pillars, but inside this thing we're building, we identified in our own business that our Runaway Vows operates on 7 pillars.
Yeah, we do.
That there are 7 pillars of our business, 8 if you include Larev. Larev's a pillar.
And now they're taking a shot.
But we kind of learned that Runaway Vows has 7 main pillars that kind of help us or give us the clarity of who we want to attract and how we want to run a successful, be full-time wedding filmmakers. And we've called those 7 pillars these things: strategy, really learning who your ideal client is and exactly how you want to attract them. Filmmaking, so the technical side of the business. We want to feel like, okay, if you want to be a $7,000 videographer, it's not just about having cool Instagram and wearing the right outfit, but it's also about having the technical abilities to produce $7,000 work, knowing exposure, composition, what lenses to use, where, audio, things like that. Having the third pillar is having great systems. So either it's Honeybook or Maru, or just having effective systems.
So every inquiry that comes in, you're not just scrambling like, what do I do? Yeah.
Or automations or DMing. Like it's just, it should be, you should have a very efficient, well-oiled system where people aren't waiting on you or like, oh, that was hard. It was hard to book Runaway Vows. It took a lot of steps. It should be very easy. But also like team systems. So like Nate and I talk a lot about having a third shooter or how we utilize having 2 shooters. The fourth pillar is our pricing. That's been one that it's been a lot of steps back. Is like what you said, like having a PDF. Like we've learned, like I feel like even our PDF 2 years ago, I look back, I'm like, oh, it looks so amateur.
Yeah, it did.
It does not look like what we're charging yet, right? And now I feel like our PDF looks fine art and it looks luxury, and it's like, okay, this matches our price tag. So, and also like knowing not just like how to make it look, but like knowing what should you be charging, and at that price point, what should you be including, right? And so you and I have been like, well, we're gonna start including more. Every booking will get a ceremony edit and a speech edit, like things like that. Same day edits. Our fifth pillar is social media. It's having an oiled social media machine. And we've learned, we used to just be anti-social media. Like, you know what, we'll just go network.
It's important.
And it's like, well, networking is so much more effective if they can social proof you and get a quick preview. And we also have learned that a lot of planners just kind of say, hey, here are 3 videographers. Which one do you like? And they'll go to our social media. Like, whoever posted the most recently.
Yeah, and they see who you've worked with.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. So, they already worked with them.
A huge pillar. 6 is networking, going to events, FaceTime with people, and finding ways to help them remember you. And the 7th pillar is the client's experience. Whether the client is a planner or a bride, is like, how can we give them the best experience possible? And sometimes we've learned at weddings, when we're not really supposed to talk to the bride, the client experience is honoring that. Like, wow, like they were so out of the way and so not in our faces. And that experience was what they asked for, and we delivered on that, you know?
You kind of joked and you said Larev is the 8th pillar.
Larev is the 8th pillar.
And it got me thinking, what if the 8th pillar is mentorship?
Yeah.
I feel like that's...
Gosh, now we have 8 pillars.
Now we have 8.
No, we'll put that in the filmmaking module.
Yeah.
Or the filmmaking pillar.
Because, I having a mentor who's done that. Absolutely. Been there, done that, made the mistakes.
Shorten the learning curve.
Shortens the learning curve. Yes, it costs money, but it well earns it back. It earns it back 10x. That's been a big one for us. So that's part of it.
But don't even think about reaching out to Larev, because they're busy and they don't want to hear from you. And they, we want them all to ourselves. Don't even think about reaching out to them. They're actually kind of snobby. They don't like love people reaching out with questions. Honestly, actually, Larev, they were not picking us to say this. If you guys want insane value, just subscribe to their Instagram. I think it's a couple bucks, maybe $10. I don't even know what it is.
They post great stuff.
But they just post behind the scenes and little tips and Q&As. And a little secret, they also post referrals. And so if an inquiry comes in and they're unavailable, they'll post it, and whoever DMs first gets first grabs.
For sure.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. What was it? They're posting stuff that on their subscription Instagram that teaches us things. It was last week when Lindsay, or when was it? Last month when Lindsay needed a passport to go to Europe. Yeah. And he didn't have one. And it was 2 days before he was leaving. And he drove to the passport place in San Diego and said, he explained the situation, and he was able to get his passport the same day.
Crazy.
And I didn't know that existed.
Save $10. Listen to our podcast. We'll just tell you everything
and learned. You can Venmo us for, I don't know, like $9.
Cut out the middleman. No, seriously valuable. But I agree. Mentorship is number one.
It squeezes in there in the pillars.
Yeah. But yes, we're excited. We're working on something really fun that we're really proud of. It's been a slow burn. If you talk to Orlando or J Mac, we've been brainstorming this for probably 3 years.
Yeah.
It was originally what Runaway Vows, our education was going to be focused on, but it was just such a behemoth of a project that we're like, okay, let's start with like more of a beginner product and iron this out until we're really proud of it. Because we never want to throw out something half-baked. We never want to throw out something gimmicky, never something that's just a cash grab. And so this has really been on the back burner for years, and we're finally working on it and happy with it. So that was a little taste. We want to show you guys just transparently what's worked for us. And what I think isn't talked about enough is what didn't work for us, and where we feel like we wasted a lot of time, and money, and resources, and energy. So,
and this is going to be, this is going to be something that is going to help people get to a certain mark, and it's not just like a technical thing. Hey, here's a PDF how to do it. It's here's how to do it. Here's what we did, and we will guarantee you get there. Guarantee you get there.
We're excited about the guarantee.
We're really excited about the guarantee.
Like the guarantee.
Yeah, you're gonna love the guarantee.
So yeah, we just rebranded our educational Instagram to be called the Runaway Academy, and that's kind of just a little preview of things to come. We're kind of just cleaning things up a little bit, so we're excited about that.
Tidying it up.
That was also kind of part of the energy behind renaming the podcast from the kitchen to the rundown, is kind of keeping things more in line with our vision
under one umbrella, one roof.
Anyway. So in summary, you guys, and then Nate has a fun question for me, but in summary, the best way to capitalize or to not become a one fluke wonder, or become a one hit wonder, have a fluke, get lucky, get that 1 gig and then go back to charging less, is to capitalize on the opportunity and to make sure you're making sure every part of your system is in harmony with the price tag you want to be. And I will say that when an opportunity comes our way, the best course of action is to over deliver.
Absolutely.
And to overkill. Anytime Nate and I are like, this is a big opportunity, we spend money to overkill it.
And if a fluke does come your way, do everything you can to find out how that fluke arrived at your doorstep. And then find out everything about who else is at that event. How did they get there? Is it a fluke for them? Is it their normal day-to-day thing? And if it is, what does their system look like? What does their business look like? And how can you apply those things to your business? And there's a whole plethora of things we can talk about in that realm as well. But just do everything you can to find out and to over-deliver. And just rinse and repeat.
Okay, here's a practical, in closing, example of when we learned this. An example was, we had, at the time, our highest booking came in for our wedding next month. And we asked, how did we land this? Like, why is this so much higher than usual? How do we get that again? And we learned that this client specifically wanted to pay us that much because we were 2 lead shooters. And we never not marketed ourselves that way, but we never marketed ourselves that way. You know what I mean? Like, we never were explicit that it wasn't a first and second shooter relationship, but we never leaned into that either. And so that was the big reason, was that 2 leads. And we're like, oh, duh. We are unique where we have 2 lead shooters. We should be charging more because they're getting 2 lead shooters.
We should tell them why they wanted 2 lead shooters.
We'll talk about it
next.
Once the wedding happens.
You're right.
But yeah,
we're excited.
It's really cool.
It is really cool. I'm excited for it.
So we're like, oh, and so I feel like all of a sudden we updated our copy on our website, and we kind of put that in our PDFs and our pricing about our dynamic as a team. And I don't know if that was the sole reason. I don't think it was, but I think it was a contributing factor to, after that wedding, we consistently were booking that price consistently, like 5 in a row, and now more. And so it's just like, to me, that was like a good example of like, why did that work? Rinse and repeat, and now it's consistent.
And thinking back to that moment, because we were on the consultation call with a couple, and they said that out loud. Hey, we've been shopping around. We talked to a ton of different really talented videographers. We are going to go with you guys because you're 2 lead shooters. And we're just like, okay,
exactly.
That's why. And then since we booked it literally the next day, and we knew for a fact it was because we were 2 lead shooters instead of one being a lead and then hiring a random second. We just leaned into that. So now everybody knows Jake and Nate, 2 lead shooters. You're getting us both.
Pretty cool.
That's something we leaned into. Just because we were poking around asking questions about themselves.
Anyway, you guys, it is now time for I guess, the rundown.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, for the old listeners, it was the kitchen, and then we had the pass, and the pass was asking a fun little question to
like
try to
the
get
rundown.
Jake canceled.
Yeah, I've missed it. I like the rundown being at the end. That way, if you stick around, you get the rundown.
Hey guys, here's the rundown, and the rundown can be different things. We could talk about what's happening in the space, or
what's happening in politics.
Yeah, so like we were in California last week.
We're gonna get drafted.
Well,
wait, do married people get drafted?
I think the draft is like 18 to 30-year-olds.
25, I think.
Is it 25? Oh, we're chilling.
We're chilling.
Your brother-in-law, Tanner, who's
Cooked.
editing this podcast.
Cooked.
Tanner, you're getting drafted.
Crazy.
No, we're safe.
Yeah. No, we're just in California, and you're leaving this weekend, and then next week we have a Colorado wedding, which we're stoked about.
Yep.
And then, guys, we're just busy season. So anyway.
And guys, we were playing with a fun idea today. So we like dressing up for our weddings. We get the dress code and we like, hey, we're showing up for this wedding dressed in this attire. You thinking about your gobo? Anyway.
No.
So yeah, we always get the dress code, and a lot of times we're getting new fits. And so we're playing around with this idea where on our Instagram, we're going to start posting before we go to the wedding, hey, this is our attire for the weekend. And that way it's going to give people some inspiration. They can always hit us up with questions like that, because we always hit up people when we have questions about attire. Figured that might be a fun little thing to do. So if you want to see that, let us know. But for the rundown, Jake.
Cancel me.
This is actually a pretty non-cancel.
Great.
Well,
love to hear it. Also, thanks, Courtney, for these cool cups.
Yeah.
Look at this.
A branded Runaway Vows.
Talk about networking
tumbler.
right here.
Gosh, that's why we love her.
Hope you guys can hear how wet that was. I just splattered water all over the backdrop.
I look one way, look back the other, and then there's just water all over the backdrop.
I didn't put those that much on the table. There was. Go on.
No, a good feature, Jake, of the tumblers is it has a little lid cover.
Okay. It closes. Gotcha.
Okay, Jake, the rundown. This is a pretty non-cancelable question. I'll cook up some cancelable questions next time to get Jake out of here, because I'm trying to take over as CEO, baby.
And I'll just go down to second shooter.
I'm trying to change it to a 51-49% split here.
Yeah.
Okay, Jacob, should you split a tip with your second shooter?
Oh, gosh.
Think about it. You're shooting a wedding, you shot 12 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is. Someone slips an envelope to you in front of both of you. Do you split that tip with your second shooter?
So I've heard many different ways.
Okay.
Here are a few ways I've heard. I won't say who, but I'll say here are the ways I've heard it being explained. Someone said, well, you don't tip the hotel, you tip the valet.
Okay.
Meaning the client shouldn't be tipping us. They should be tipping our second shooters. They're already paying us.
Okay.
Thought that was interesting.
Interesting. See,
Thought that was very interesting.
going along with
and
that.
I was like, valid.
Going along with that, let me tell you, and he's okay with me saying this, we already talked about it, at the wedding that I second shot this past weekend, I got tipped, and he didn't.
See, that's exactly in line with what this person was
And
saying.
it happened with the photographer too. The photographer, the lead photographer, did not get
I'm
tipped.
already paying you 5 figures.
The second shooter for the photographer got tipped. So all the second shooters did. And the photographer, when we were getting our vendor meal, she was like, yeah, it's actually really standard. It happens quite a bit. And for me, I was like, really? I haven't had that happen yet. Maybe our second shooters have been tipped and we haven't. We didn't even know.
So what was the question? Should we split?
Should you
Yes.
split your? You think it's just like common courtesy?
I think so. I want to say more, but we're second shooting a lot this year, so I don't want to say. I just second shot with someone, and they're like, "Yeah, I was listening to your podcast, so we'll totally give you a shout out." And I was like, "Whoa, we did not ask for shout outs," so I don't want to say. I don't expect it.
Yeah. Don't expect it.
If I'm second shooting for you and you get tipped, I do not expect you to give me that tip. I do not think you should. You're already feeding me. You're already flying me out. It's already a cool opportunity.
You're paying me.
Already pay me.
It's like a paid mentorship.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that if you want to, I actually hate tipping culture.
Yeah, get rid of tipping culture altogether.
You flip that iPad around, I get
zero.
so annoyed.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, people should be tipped. I agree. I'd rather than be paid a fairer wage than to have to tip them.
Yeah.
But we won't get into that right now. But if you split the tip with me, I am honored, and that's so so kind, and I really, really appreciate it, and I will use that money well.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time saying should you, yes or no. I just think that's a really generous thing to do.
Yeah. I think it is too.
Yeah.
What if they slip you the envelope and the second shooter isn't around? What are you doing?
Nah, I'd keep it.
You pocketed that?
No. Yeah, I mean,
for me, it's just like, yeah, for me, it's just, I don't know. I feel like if you do a good thing, it comes back around. And I've already been paid. So if they tip $600, yeah, here's 300. Here you go.
I just think it's an easy, yeah, thanks for helping out today, man. You killed it.
Goes the extra mile.
Now, if they leave before the tip comes, I might keep it for myself.
Put that
But I'm also like, you know what, like, let's take you out to dinner, like, while you're in town. Like, let's, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like every time I second shoot for someone, I'm taken care of so well. They feed us. They put us in a good hotel. They pay us well. So, like, if a tip comes around, it's just like wow, what a bonus. Like, I don't need this, but wow, thank you, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. But I really do agree with the whole valet thing.
I do too.
I think it's cool when, but that's not really on you. If they're handing you the money,
it's on the client. Yeah.
Maybe they hate your second shooter.
Maybe.
And they're giving you money and then like, oh, don't give it to that guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Please never bring him again.
Well, what if there's a third shooter? What if the drone op guy is sitting there with you?
What if you have 5 people on your team? Do you split the tip?
Do they all get tipped? Do you split it into one big pot?
I don't know.
Messy.
Yeah, good question.
Well, how's a softball for you?
I'm all for the softballs.
Guys, send me a DM of don't send it to our Runaway Vows. Send it to me personally so he doesn't see it.
Nate Ahan film.
Yeah, Nate Ahan film. Man, I should really change that, but I'm just past the point of questions I can just get Jake canceled with. Please. This is me asking you.
Okay, you guys, we'll see you next week.
Love you all.